Aloha, my name is James E. Higgins III, and this is Island Astrologer. And we're going to be talking about, that's right, you guessed it, astrology. So most people know astrology as, get your little newspaper out, right? Astrology by Joyce Jillson or so many various astrologers. And then they see Aries, Taurus, Gemini. And this is how most people know astrology. It's a little something you read in the newspaper. Or, if you happen to be the First Lady, former First Lady, or the former President of the United States, you can spend $3,000 a month on Astrologer. You can either look for it in your daily newspaper, or you just have to have the money. $3,000 a month, and you could hire yourself your very own astrologer for when to land, when to take off with Air Force One, and, you know, when to sign contracts with the Gorbachevs and when not to. So this is most people's idea of astrology. Nancy kind of made it a little popular. The newspapers make it popular. Most people really don't know what it is, or, you know, the old, one of the big lines, everybody might remember this from the 70s, what's your sign? Astrology is actually a great science. We can, like, make jokes about it, and we can laugh about it, and we can look up what it says not to do in the paper today. But the science of astrology has actually been around for countless centuries and millennium. And it's interesting that in America, when the Reagans were exposed as to having used an astrologer to decide when to do things and when not to do things, that there was such a hubbub about it. Formerly, in other ages or just centuries ago, and even still today, every royal family had an astrologer or astrologers. Just like I do some work in Thailand, and some of the people I work with are the Brahmins to the royal family. There's a whole group of their priests, Brahmin means priest, and one of the things they do is they do the astrological calculations for the royal family. And you'll also find throughout history, all royal families, your great kings, queens, they all had court astrologers. Also, we see that in today's big world, high finance, there's a lot of astrologers out there today. We estimate that there's probably half of the Fortune 500 companies, not as a company policy, but individual managers and executives are using astrology. Why are people using astrology? What is astrology? Where does astrology come from? What can it do for me? Do I have to have $3,000 a month like Nancy Reagan to afford an astrologer? These questions and more we're going to try and answer. So the idea of having an astrologer, basically what he does is at the time when you're born, a map is made of the heavens. Just like we have a telescope here, and we'll show you that telescope in a little bit. And when one uses his telescope, he's able to see the stars, right? You see the different planets and the different stars and where they are situated in the heavens. So when your horoscope is calculated, it's simply a map of the heavens that's drawn when you're born, has great meaning on your life. It can, by calculating this map, just like you may calculate a map about anything, by putting this map together, we're able to understand so much about a person. We're able to understand his health. We're able to understand whether he'll be wealthy or poor. We can understand his beauty. When a person's born, you can understand this person will grow up to be very beautiful. This person may have a speech impediment. This person will earn lots of money. This person will be poor. This person may have 2 marriages. This person may have 3 marriages. This person will have 4 or 5 children. So all these little facts that come up in our lives can actually be ascertained by the system of astrology. And as we describe here, formerly the science of astrology in the Western world was only open to people who could afford it, your wealthy families, your royal families, and or just like the quote that we wanted to use from J.P. Morgan, famous industrialist. He said, astrology isn't for millionaires, it's for billionaires. So in the East, astrology was available for everyone. In the West, it's only been available for those who had some major money to afford it. Now, of course, with the invention of the newspaper, you can just get it out of the newspaper, but do you really think that you're like every other 12th person? There's only 12 different kinds of people in this world, and today, let's say you happen to be a Scorpio, you'll need to be especially cautious to avoid accidents today. Does that apply to every 12 people in this world? No. When you're born, an exact map is made of the heavens at that exact moment, and that exact time, and that exact location. A map is drawn for you as an individual. No one else will have the same chart as you do unless they're born at the exact same time and the exact same location on the exact same day. Otherwise, they'll have a different chart than you. In astrology, there are Vedic astrology, we use 9 different planets. There are 12 different signs, 12 different houses, 27 different types of stars, lordship of the different houses, and where the lord of a house is placed. If I were to go on and on, it's a little technical. There are literally billions and billions of different combinations, which means you are a unique individual. And as we know, you are 1 out of 5 billion people on this planet, right? Which means you have a unique chart that's particularly geared to you, who you are, what you're like. And this science of astrology isn't just something some guy, right, dreamed up a couple of centuries ago, or most people they consider it the astrology new age, right? We've all heard new age, right? So it wasn't like some enterprising young person or old person, whatever, decided, wow, let's make up something and just blow people's minds with it. And dreamt up, well, Saturn means this, and Jupiter means that, and Venus does this. And the science of astrology has been handed down through millennia, through millions of years, and just recently, for this age, which began 5,000 years ago, it was written down for the people of this age. Formerly, it was handed down by an oral tradition. It's like in Hawaii, we have the hula. It was handed down by oral tradition. So up till 5,000 years ago, the science of astrology was handed down by oral tradition. Now, starting 5,000 years ago, because the people of this age aren't that bright, formerly people could hear something once and they'd remember it. This age, we have to write things down. So 5,000 years ago, the sages of India wrote down on palm leaf scrolls, what I'm holding, I don't know if you can see it there on your television screen. This is a genuine palm leaf scroll. It is not 5,000 years old. But originally they were written down on scrolls 5,000 years old. What they did was they took a knife like this, and they would cut it out of the palm leaf so they're uniform. And then with another part of this instrument, they were able to inscribe, the language you're looking at is Sanskrit, right? And they wrote down, the sages of India wrote down the science of astrology, or what your horoscope would mean, the various different types of planetary configurations would mean. They wrote it down in a system of codes on palm leaf scrolls. And fortunately today, these scrolls have been translated. Be a little hard if we all had to read Sanskrit, wouldn't it? And we have actually literally hundreds and hundreds of books on astrology, based on the ancient Vedas of India, and based on, the science of astrology is not a stagnant science, based on also new developments, different techniques that different astrologers have devised, different ideas, different types of configurations that astrologers have noted throughout the ages. So this has all been written down and given to us, and just like my personal library consists of maybe 200 books on astrology. So it's not a little thing that you just simply look up in the newspaper. It's not a, you know, it's not like a catchy thing to use in a bar. What's your sign? Astrology is actually a great science. And of course, to find a good astrologer, that may also be a little hard. There's so many people out there today who are palm readers, psychics, channelers, astrologers, fortune tellers, right? We all know that with such a boom industry that there's bound to be a few little, as we may say, crackpots, frauds, and whatnot. So one has to find a good astrologer, and usually that can be done by word of mouth, or you meet somebody who sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and then he should be able to come up with some things that are relevant to your life. So the science of astrology has been passed down for thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, and today there are literally thousands of people practicing astrology, millions of people listening to astrologers. And why? Why? Because people want to know what's going to happen, right? I mean, it would be really nice to know what's going to happen, or what the odds are of something happening, or what the likelihood of something is happening before it happens. It gives you a little, like, edge, right? Everybody wants a little cutting edge. That's why J.P. Morgan used astrology. That's why Ronald Reagan, his wife, was using it to make sure he'd be safe. She was very worried about his protection. Formerly kings and presidents and people would use this when to sign treaties, when to go into war, when to, you know, settle for peace, when to arrange marriages. So many things are there. And it's because if you use the system of astrology, if you use astrology, you can be what is known as going with the flow. You're rightly situated. And if you don't know what's going to happen, you could be going upstream. Have you ever tried to swim upstream? You can work really hard and go nowhere. And sometimes if the current's strong enough, you can be working really hard and you can be going backwards, right? And we all know that in our lives, sometimes we seem like we're in the flow, and sometimes we're not going anywhere. We're working real hard, right? We all know that 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, we're working real hard, and we're not really going anywhere. Or sometimes, right, we're going backwards, right? You've all been there. We're going backwards. So the science of astrology is meant to put you in the flow. Now, sometimes we want to, in everybody's chart, there are certain strong points, certain good things that are bound to happen, that are likely to happen. We want to enhance those. And then there are bad things or weak points that we either want to strengthen or we want to negate, right? We don't want bad things to happen. So that's a whole system of being able to do that. And what we do in astrology is we calculate your chart, which is a map of the heavens at the time you were born, and we're able to understand your strength and your weak points. And we want to increase the good things about you, and we want to kind of like mellow out the things that are not so good, or the things that are weak in your chart. And it's just like astrology you can't use it as the answer to all your questions, or you can't, it's not like every day I'm like, okay, well, the moon just went into, should I take a bath now, or should I wait another 5 minutes? Can I eat my toast in, we don't want to get carried away, all right? Astrology is not going to give you a minute by minute what you should be doing for the day. Astrology can, however, help you in your career, can help you in your love life, can help you make a lot of money, can help you develop as a person. We can use astrology for compatibility. We can, by comparing two people's charts. One's career, it's a big decision. Many people are in college, they're thinking about this career or that career. Many people have jobs, they feel like they're dead end, or people don't like their work or can't stand their boss. Or people want to have a feeling like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So by using astrology, we can see what planets are strong, which houses are strong, and we can advise, oh, you would be very good in a real estate career, constructing homes. Or we may say, whatever you do, you know, don't start a construction business. Whatever you do, don't become a policeman, right? We may have like certain things that there's a tendency for head injuries, or for somebody who might decide that they want to be a swimming instructor. There might be a configuration in their chart that gives them an indication, death by drowning. So, you know, and those people we kind of, well, maybe you don't want to be a swimming instructor. Or somebody may be thinking different careers that one may come into one's mind. So the system of astrology, the science of astrology, is able to tell you this career would be good for you, this type of work would be suitable for you, you'd be happy at this, you could earn money at this. And it can tell you this wouldn't be so good, it could be dangerous for you, it could be mentally unsatisfying for you, it wouldn't be where you would make the most money, something to that effect. So you can use it for your career. Also health. Health is another area of astrology. One could understand, in other words, you go to a doctor, by symptoms, he's able to tell you have such and such a disease, you got to do this, you got to do that. So similarly in astrology, we're able to understand, oh, it's because of this planet aspecting this house that the person has asthma. And we can come up with remedies that are astrological as well as herbal in curing someone from their disease. It's also a whole science of when to start some type of medical treatment. If you start at a good time when the energies are flowing nicely, you'll get good results. If you do it, you perform an operation or you start some medical cure at a bad time, your results will be hampered. So we have health, we have career. A career obviously includes money. There are certain times to buy things and certain times to sell. Many astrologers are, of course, involved in the stock market, right? When's the good time to buy? When's the time to sell, right? Just like I advised one of my clients about a month before the famous crash to get out of the stock market based on his particular chart. By following that advice, he was able to save tens of thousands of dollars. So when to buy a property, when to sell a property, when to buy a stock, when to sell a stock, when to buy a business, when to sell a business, when to make a business trip, when not to make a business trip. These things can also be ascertained by the use of astrology. Practically speaking, there isn't anything that astrology cannot assist in some degree or another. There's some way that you can use astrology to help you in your everyday life and for those big decisions that we all have to make. And by using the system of astrology, the science of astrology, wisely, you're able to be in the flow. So things are going as well as can be expected and you're living up to your full potential, right? Everybody knows that, everybody will pretty much admit that we're not living up to their full potential. I could do so much more. I could be doing so much more. I wish I was doing so much more. I want to be doing so much more. So that's one of the things that astrology can be used for, is to help you live up to your full potential. You may have a potential to become very wealthy or famous or learned or whatever, but because you're just kind of spinning around, not knowing what the stars are saying, it's a system of reading what it's just like if you can't read the signs out there, you can't read stop, you don't know green means go, you don't know yield means that people are coming. If you don't know how to read the different signs that we see, life is, can be hard. You don't know whether to go, to stop, to start, to cross, to not to cross, to go, to, right? So similarly, if we don't know what the signs, the stars mean, we kind of like, we're bouncing around. Sometimes we make a good decision, sometimes not. If we know the signs, if we know how to read the stars, then things go according to plan. Things go much more smoothly, or we know there's shocks coming up. We know, okay, look out, this is going to be a heavy week. Things are happening. So, you know, you don't plan to be in, you know, a major boxing match with Mike Tyson, or there's different things that you can avoid and different things that you want, situations you want to be in. So this is what you can get by using the system of astrology, or the science of astrology. It's a very systematic way how to lead, how to go about one's daily life and get the most out of life. Now, I got a question for you, Mr. Cameraman. So, what is a horoscope? A horoscope is simply a map of the heavens exactly as they are when you're born. Just like an astronomer can take a telescope, or even an amateur can take a telescope and can focus in on where the different planets are in the different signs. The planets travel through the signs in the zodiac. So we can understand that right now Venus is in the sign of Capricorn. We can understand that the Sun is in the sign of Scorpio. We can tell where all the planets are. It's verifiable. The difference between sidereal or Vedic astrology and Western astrology is that the Vedic or sidereal astrology uses the planets where they actually are situated. At this present today, the Sun is in the sign of Scorpio. The Moon is going into Taurus. Mercury is in Sagittarius. Jupiter is in Gemini. And the various planets are in different signs. Now, astronomers know that there's a zodiac. Those are constellations in the sky. And it's formed like a belt, a circle. And the planets travel throughout this belt. And that's what it means when somebody says, most people know today, they say, I'm a Scorpio or I'm a Leo. That simply means your sun is in that sign. But you're a lot more than just the sun. Where is the moon in your chart? Is it in Taurus? Is it in Cancer? Is it in Gemini? That'll mean something. And there are other planets. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Rahu and Ketu, which are shadowy planets. And they're all in these 12 different signs. And those 12 different signs, based on the time of day that you're born, become different types of houses. There's 12 different houses. And then there's also another system of stars that we use in sidereal astrology, 27 different types of stars that also will mean something as to your particular chart. And the learned astrologer, he takes all these factors into consideration, where everything is in your chart, and he's able to come up what it means for you, what it means to you.
Samsara Bhavananda Loka Nanaya महाप्रभु कीर्तन नित्य गीता बादित्रमाचंदन सोरसेना रोमांचकं पाशुतरंग भाजो वंदे गुरश्री चरणरविंदम् संसार दावानललीलोका नानाय पारिण घनाघनत्यम् सकलनगुणार्णवश वन्दे गुरश्री चरणरविन्दम्
Hello and welcome to the Chaitanya channel. My name is Nischinta Das, astrologer to the rich and famous and the poor and obscure. Today we're going to be talking about Vedic astrology. Now, usually the first thing people do when they find out that you're an astrologer is they ask, what sign am I? Like you can get a copy of any newspaper and they'll talk about astrology, you know. And you'll have today, like today we have Sydney Omar, your astrological forecast. Is this really astrology? Or if we read Aries from March 21st to April 19th, correct misstatement, insist that you be accurately quoted. Good news for you soon. Now, does that mean everybody who was born from March 21st to April 19th is going to have that? So that means you're like 1 out of every 12 people? I think this is just for the newspapers. I think this is for people who want to pay 35 cents and want to get some information. Actually, astrology is a science. It's not just something you read in the newspaper and it's a little fun. It's actually a science and it's been around for thousands of years. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how much of a science it is. When we refer to your astrological sign, most people immediately think of what sign they are in the newspaper. But that would mean you're like 1 out of every 12 people, because there's only 12 signs. So does that mean you're like 1 out of every 12 people? I don't think so. I had a mathematical friend of mine calculate there's 12 signs, there's 12 houses, there's 12 planets, there's 27 star signs, and there's 9 divisions to each sign. So I asked him to figure out all those numbers and tell me how many possible combinations there were. He said, after doing it in his head, because he's a genius, he said, there's 30 billion different combinations. Now, doesn't that sound a little more like you? 1 out of 30 billion. So if you're really going to talk astrology, you have to talk about your unique chart. And your chart is basically a map of the heavens when you were born. So like here we have a telescope. All right? You look into the telescope and you can see where the different planets are. Jupiter, Mars, Moon, etc. And of course I always say, don't trust an astrologer who doesn't got a telescope. I mean, what are they looking at? So when Vedic astrology, the difference between Vedic astrology and Western astrology is Vedic astrology actually is much more, it corresponds much more to what modern astronomy would say. In other words, today, if we were to ask an astronomer at one of the observatories, like on Mauna Kea in Hawaii or, you know, out in LA there, they would tell you that Saturn is in Aquarius, Jupiter is in Libra, all right? Now, in Western astrology, they actually use an imaginary zodiac. There's a reason for it. We're not putting them down. But Vedic astrology means what you see is what you get. So if the planet's actually there, and you can look in your trusty little telescope whenever you need to make sure, then that's where the planets are. So when you're born, a good astrologer, he can make a map of where everything was when you were born, for the moment you were born, for the place you were born. And then that map becomes what they call a horoscope. Now, with modern astronomy and everything, we can determine where any planet is at any given time. Those kind of books are called almanacs and ephemerises and stuff, and you can always find out where a planet is for you. All right? Now, how do you figure out what it means? Because an astronomer can tell you where it is, but can he tell you what it means? So for that, what we do is we go to the Vedas. And originally, you can see how far astrology has come, from palm leaf scrolls to newspapers. So originally, the Vedas were written down on these palm leaf scrolls. You can see they're kind of a little worn. They've been eaten. They don't last too long. Oh, so originally, the science of astrology was written down by many sages on palm leaf scrolls. And they talk about if the sun is in the first house, it means this. If the sun is in the second house, it means this. If the sun's in the third house, it'll mean this. If Mars is over here, it'll mean this. If Mars is with the sun, it'll mean this. So in that way, they wrote down many, many volumes of literature. And you can understand now, if you read all that literature, and there's a lot of books out, you don't even have to learn Sanskrit. If you looked on this thing, you could see we were using Sanskrit. But nowadays, you can see they've done it so you can actually read it in English. You don't have to learn Sanskrit. All right? So there's actually hundreds and hundreds of books on astrology written down by different sages and different scholars. And astrology is not a stagnant science. Even though it was written down thousands and thousands of years ago, what different configurations of planets mean, it's still a science that is evolving, in that different scholars over the years will have noted a certain combination will make somebody very beautiful, or another combination will tend to make somebody very wealthy. Another combination will make somebody very educated, all right? So many, many books since those thousands of years have gone by. Many, many books have been written about astrology by contemporaries. And just like we have a book that are even quite modern, How to Read Your Horoscope, right? And you can go to any good New Age bookstore and find books on Vedic astrology as opposed to Western astrology. So and a lot of times people will go, well, which is right? It's basically two different ways of looking at the same phenomenon. I did Western astrology for 6 years, and I've been doing Vedic astrology for 12 years. And I see the Westerners, just like in Western culture, we have learned how to, we've got TVs, and we've got microphones, and we've got computers, right? So all these things can be utilized in astrology. Almost every astrologer nowadays uses a computer. So it's just that there are different tools to utilize the same science. And I've noticed over the years that Vedic astrology is more accurate because that's actually where a planet's at. But there are many Western astrologers who do very well looking at the imaginary zodiac and giving their own interpretation. So it's a way for you to, it's just a system of symbols that you can start to assimilate and then give a reading for people. Now one may ask, well, what's the use of astrology, right? Especially if we read there, flirtation today, you might get some money. So if you're looking in the newspaper, don't expect to get much, right? You paid 35 cents for the newspaper, you got a few articles, you got a few advertisements, and you got your horoscope. You probably won't get a lot out of it. And even though the Reagans said that that's what they did, they just looked in the newspaper, everybody knows that's not true. They actually paid their astrologers $3,000 a month to give them astrological information. And when people ask, a lot of times people will ask, how do I, does astrology really work? Is it really accurate? Is it this, is it that? I always used to like to use Ronald Reagan as an example. That here's a guy, he's starring in movies with chimpanzees, right, B-movies, and he uses his astrology, and after a number of years, he becomes the governor of California, and then he goes on to be president of the United States. He had some good astrologers working for him, all right? Also, the famous industrialist J.P. Morgan is quoted as saying, astrology isn't for millionaires, it's for billionaires. Obviously, he also did very well with his astrologers, considering he made quite a deal of money. And it's not that you have to be a multi-millionaire or a billionaire to use an astrologer. It helps, like I said, astrologer to the rich and famous. But you can also be poor and obscure, because a good astrologer in Vedic culture, astrologers would go door to door, and they would just basically do astrology for people, and they would take whatever people would give them for their work. Now, if the person was a king or very wealthy, he might say, well, you can have a palace here, and I'll give you some jewels here, and I'll give you some cows here and some land there, based on the work that the astrologer did for him. But if he went to a poor person's house, he might just get a bag of rice or some mangoes or, you know, something very simple. So if you find an actual bona fide astrologer, they won't turn people away because they don't have money. Now, they may ask you to do some things, or there has to be some exchange. One should approach an astrologer, it's described in the Vedas, with a humble attitude. One shouldn't be trying to challenge him or test him. I used to do at the beginning of my illustrious career. People used to always say, you know, they'd like try and test you to see if you could tell them a little bit about themselves, you know. So people like to make you jump through a few hoops to see if you were real or not. But the proper way to approach an astrologer is to find one who, you know, usually you'll find somebody who can recommend them. So they'll verify that, yes, I took his advice and it worked. And then the astrologer will cast your horoscope, a map of the heavens for when you were born, and then, boom, he can get right to it and start telling you about your past, about your present, and about your future. All right? And the idea is that astrology isn't the all-in-all. The future's not fixed. I mean, they even said that in Terminator 2, right? They said the future isn't fixed, right? She could go back and change the future. All right, so the future isn't fixed. You actually, by doing different things, you can choose. I always tell people, they say, what's my future? I say, what would you like? Behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3? So depending on what you do and how you act and various things that then your future is different. Like if you sit around all day drinking beer and watching MTV, your future may be quite different than if you go out there and, you know, write songs or go to acting classes or study astrology. So in other words, depending on what you do, your future can be quite different. So a good astrologer will look at your chart and he'll be able to recommend certain things. He'll see the way the energy is flowing for you. He'll see the way the planets are aligning. And he'll be able to help you capitalize on your strengths, and he'll be able to help you negate your weaknesses. Because everybody has certain strengths and certain weaknesses. All right? So an astrologer will be able to see, oh, this person, not so much money in the chart because of an affliction of Saturn. It's like I have a client, and she had Saturn, it was debilitated in her second house, which any astrologer will look at that and go, oh, this person's going to have money problems. So when she was in that Saturn period, I asked her, even though she was quite famous, and she had her own show on TV and everything, and I was thinking, well, she must have had money problems. So I asked her, and she said, oh, yeah, there were lots of money problems. So then an astrologer can see, okay, you've got some money problems. Now what to do about it? So in astrology, Vedic astrology, it's not enough to just be able to tell someone that, like we would say, well, it looks like here it says that you're going to have some money problems, and then basically your girlfriend's going to dump you, and then the IRS is going to audit you, and then basically you're headed for jail. So that one, you know, and then like they shake your hand, say goodbye, good luck, God bless, right? So that one, I wouldn't think that astrology would have much value if that's what would happen to you. So a good Vedic astrologer will be able to tell you certain things that you can do to alleviate your situation. He can do certain things that will help you strengthen the good things in your chart and alleviate the bad things. So there's the 5 types of remedial measures in astrology. Vedic astrology, we have 5 types of remedial measures. The first remedial measure is gems. Like you see, I'm wearing a few gems here. All right. Gems are good. Different gems are for different signs. Just like the sun is for, the ruby is for the sun, and the pearl is for the moon, and jade or emerald is for Mercury, and so on. So by wearing certain gems, you can strengthen certain planets in your chart. So that's one of the ways, like you'll see, people wearing gems are the new thing. Everybody wears all these crystals, right? Everybody likes to wear crystals, all right? And that's actually a gem for Venus. So if you wear a crystal, one of the things that it will do is that it makes your relationships with other people smoother, and it gives you a certain amount of attractiveness to other people. Of course, if you have a smoky quartz instead of the clear quartzes, then it'll have a Saturn effect. So that's one of the ways you can adjust your karma, kind of, or you can adjust your future, or you can make sure that the strong things in your chart are strengthened. Another thing you can do, they have in astrology, is by the chanting of mantras, right? Those are like prayers, invocations, just like we had in our little, right? There's different mantras that are given that people can say, just like if you have a certain affliction from Saturn or Rahu, there are mantras that are given, little prayers. It's kind of like you say these mantras, and it's kind of like, you're putting yourself on the mercy of the court, that please let me off, I did a few things bad, and now I want, So they're little like invocations. So mantras are one of the ways that you can also adjust your chart so that you get the good things and the bad things are a little put off. And then another way is called charity, right? So everybody likes to give a little charity, but if you have an astrologer do your chart, he can tell you the different kinds of things that you should give in charity, or the kinds of people you should give charity to, or different very good days to give a charity on. And charity is kind of like, in other words, you may have done this thing in a past life, and another thing in a past life, and a few other things that cause you to suffer in this life. That's what karma is. Because of your actions in previous life, both good and bad, in this life you get good and bad. So when you have something bad coming, right, just like if you get arrested and you did something bad, the judge a lot of times will go, okay, you got 10 days in jail or a $100 fine. So you can kind of pay your way out of it, right? If you pay the fine, you don't have to spend time in jail. So if you give some charity away, you don't have to suffer your bad karma. So a good astrologer will say, okay, you have this affliction here from Venus, you should give some things that are Venus-oriented, which would be nice clothing or flowers, or you could give it to women, give some charity to women as opposed to men, or you could give the charity on Friday as opposed to any other day, because that will help your Venus. So astrology it's very useful, and figuring out a way, right, just like if I don't know, I was from Chicago where, best cops money could buy. So if you had to know where to give the money, right, if you just gave the money to anybody, you might not get off. But if you knew who to give the money to, then you were assured that you would get off. So similarly, an astrologer can say, hey, well, this is where you give the money, you'll get off. All right, so that's another way that we can help alleviate our karma. The fourth way is it's called jugnas. They're like rituals. And in Vedic, they have a sacrifice, and it's performed with fire, and different grains and substances are thrown into the fire, and it symbolizes burning up of your karmas. All right? But for people who aren't familiar with the Vedas, they can use other rituals or ceremonies that they feel comfortable with. And finally, the last thing you can do to help yourself is penances and austerities. So those might be like, don't eat meat on Friday, or, fast this day, or, different types of bodily inconveniences that you can go through, but for a higher purpose. And an astrologer will say, do this kind of austerity, do it on this day, do it at this time, and you'll get the benefit, so it'll affect your chart, so that you can get the benefit of the good things you're doing, and you can help relieve yourself of some of the bad things you've done in previous lives. So astrology is a science. It's not like the famous newspaper we have here, we just threw it in the back, all right?
It's a science, and you can use the science. It's not just like a lot of people, you know, I'm sure you've all seen the 1-900 call psychic, you know, you know, and it's like, I guess they have advertisements now, don't call them, call us, because they're no good. Are you tired of all those bogus psychics? Call us because we're bona fide, you know. But I really kind of think that, you know, somebody, you know, and I'll be honest, I know a lot of out-of-work actors and musicians and stuff, and regularly they work on these lines, all right? So if you're paying your $3.99 a minute, and you're going to ask, you know, the guy on the other end or the girl on the other end, is my boyfriend going to dump me, or am I going to win the lottery, or et cetera, even though you're paying a lot, you might not be getting the information you really need. Best to seek out somebody who kind of has a, you know, they've been around for a while. You can look at their credentials, right? Just like you ask, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a out-of-work actor right now, and I wait tables at night, and this is my day gig, right? So I don't really think you want to be entrusting that person to give you advice on your love life or your economic life, or, you know, whether to go tell your boss, you know, tell your boss to take this job and shove it because your psychic told you to. You could find yourself in a mess. So I always recommend people find somebody, because if you ask around, everybody's gone to an astrologer or a psychic at some time. So if you ask around, you'll find, you know, somebody who's got a reputation, or they can give you references. Just like I always like to say, I'm the astrologer to the rich and famous. And I've done many very wealthy people's charts, Doris Duke, multi-billionaire, Ford family, so I can give references. So usually it's a little like, well, the Ford family uses them, the Dukes use them. Hey, you know, maybe you can tell me something, you know. Whereas the guy on the other end of the 900 line, he's not getting paid that much. The line gets $3.99 an hour, but he gets 50 cents a minute or 10 cents a minute, or he's not getting as much. You know, there's advertising cost, and, you know, the guy who started it, and or network cost, et cetera, et cetera. So better you find an astrologer who, you know, has got some kind of reputation that somebody's gone to and got some good advice from, and that way you've got a chance, all right? And like I said, always make sure your astrologer uses a telescope, because with a telescope, you know, he does look at the stars. There are a lot of books out, and they tell you where the planets are and everything, but I like to let people see where the stars really are. You can show it to them in the sky. So I think that's, you know, find an astrologer who uses a telescope. Find an astrologer who has palm leaf scrolls, you know, and find an astrologer who knows what he's talking about. Otherwise, if you call 1-900 astrologer, or you look up Cindy Omar's column, right, and you find out what everybody who was born from March 21st to April 22nd was doing, you all have the same thing. All at the same time, everyone's girlfriend's going to dump them. At the same time, everybody's going to get a tax settlement. So I don't think so, all right? Find a good astrologer, and we can recommend. I know many good astrologers in the LA area and around the world. So I think they're going to run at the end of the show, they're going to run a phone number, 310-839-1491. And if you call that number, we're more than happy to give you more information on astrology, how you could study astrology, books you can get on astrology at your local libraries, bookstores, etc. If you want to study astrology and learn it, we can tell you people who teach it. If you just want to get a chart done, we can help you find somebody who will do your chart. And if you want to get, of course, if you want to get a reading, we'll do it. Why not? You just have to fit into the category of rich and famous or poor and obscure. And of course, the poor and obscure people, they're trying to become rich and famous. And all my rich and famous clients, I don't know if they want to be poor and obscure, but usually they want to be obscure. That's why they wear sunglasses and stuff. And you'll see, after you make your first 100 million, you basically want your astrologer around for laughs. You won't need him to figure out days to sign things and days to go into business and people to go into business with. After you get that much money, then you just kind of want a little peace of mind. So we always tell people, astrology should be fun, it should be interesting, and it should be helpful. And we showed you some of the tools we use. We showed you some of the techniques. We explained some of the different things that you can use in your own life after an astrologer has done your chart to kind of make the good things happen and the bad things go away. Of course, we can't make everything go away. Sometimes everybody, I have people come and they go, just tell me the good stuff, don't tell me any of the bad stuff. Okay, we can do that for you, but a smart person will want to know, what kind of good things do I have coming up? What kind of crummy things do I got coming up? Do some things that will enhance the good things, do some things that will negate or at least minimize the bad things you've got coming up. And in this way, it's kind of like, I always describe to people, it's kind of like you're going with the flow, as opposed to, without using astrology, a lot of times you feel like you're swimming upstream maybe, like you're paddling and you're kicking and you're stroking and you're going backwards. So if life feels like that, find an astrologer and they should be able to help you go with the flow, all right? They should be able to help you make things so that you're in the flow. You're like looking for a job when you're supposed to look for a job. You're trying to, seek love in the place and the time you're supposed to be finding love, all right? And a good astrologer can help you do that. And we all, of course, recommend Vedic astrology because there's so many things you can do to help yourself get along. And that number again, 310-839-1491. And you can get a hold of, so we can help you. Astrology for the rich and famous and the poor and obscure. See you soon. Bye-bye.